You say you're stuck. You feel like something's holding you back. You take a few steps forward. Then hesitate. Then stall. Then retreat. And every time you stop, you tell yourself the same story. Maybe this just isn't right. Maybe I need more clarity. Maybe this isn't the path for me. But deep down, you know exactly what's killing your momentum. It's not fear. It's not failure. It's the fact that you've given yourself a way out. There's still a back door. A fallback. An escape plan. A maybe later. A well, at least I can still go back to that thing if this doesn't work out. And that right there is why you're stuck. Because when your brain knows it has options, it never commits with force. It hesitates. It compares. It compromises. You've been dragging that plan B like an anchor. And every time you try to move, it pulls you back. So here's the first brutal truth you need to face. You will never become unstoppable. As long as quitting is still on the table. Your momentum begins. Not when you feel ready, but when you remove the exit. You don't wait to see how it plays out. You cut the safety net. You make the jump. Then burn the bridge behind you. Not because you're reckless, but because you're done negotiating with your potential. You've tried caution. You've tried strategy. You've tried balance. Now it's time to try conviction. That means your next move is not a test. It's a commitment. No half-built identity. No maybe I'll try again next week. No waiting to feel certain. You go all in. And you make that decision final. So what does that look like? It means the language you use changes. You stop saying, I hope this works. You start saying, this will work because I'll make it work. You stop saying, I'll try to be more consistent. You start saying, I don't negotiate with my calendar. You stop saying, if it doesn't work, I'll figure something else out. You start saying, if it doesn't work, I'll work it until it does. That's what kills stuckness. Not new strategies, but a new identity. One that no longer tolerates retreat. You don't need a backup plan. You need a better reason to keep going. Because here's the secret. The thing you're building, the thing you're chasing, it only starts revealing its rewards after you've passed the point of no return. You don't get the full rewards while you're still flirting with the idea of quitting. The world only starts to move when it sees you're not going anywhere. So you stop sending mixed signals. You stop building exits while claiming you want a future. You burn the exit. And that flame becomes the fire you use to build the next step. You show up with nothing left to prove, because you already proved it when you decided there's no going back. And every time the doubt returns, you remind yourself, I've already made the choice. I'm not waiting for a better option. I'm becoming the person who never needed one. You keep saying, I don't have time. I don't feel inspired. I'll do it once things calm down. I just need to fix a few things first. But deep down, you already know. None of those are the real reason you're stuck. The real reason is that you've installed an excuse circuit, a reflex system, one that activates the moment forward motion feels uncomfortable. And that system? It's automated. It doesn't ask your permission. It just fires. You wake up with a plan. The voice whispers, you're tired. You hesitate. The system kicks in. You want to take a leap. The voice says, let's play it safe today. You nod. The system takes over. And soon, you're no longer making decisions. You're reacting to your own internal negotiations. But here's the shift. You can interrupt the excuse circuit and replace it with a power response. You don't wait to feel powerful. You install power at the point where you used to stall. That means rewiring what happens. The moment the voice speaks, it used to say, "You're not ready," and you paused. Now it says, "You're not ready," and you move anyway. Not because you feel confident, but because you've trained yourself to break hesitation with action. That's the new identity. The kind that overrides the circuit before it completes. And it doesn't take hours of mindset work. It takes one move, done fast, before the loop begins. You catch the first thought, the very first, the moment your brain starts to bargain, and you cut it off with decision. You say, "I hear you, but I don't serve you anymore." Then you act. Because power isn't loud. It's immediate. And once you start doing this, every day, with small steps, you begin to reprogram your wiring. You replace the delay trigger with the momentum trigger. You teach your nervous system that discomfort is not danger. That hesitation is not instruction. That the moment you feel like stalling is the signal to go. And slowly, the excuse circuit breaks. Not because you fought it, but because you outpaced it. You acted too fast, too clean, too consistently, for the voice to catch up. And now, you don't wait for the world to clear the path. You clear it with your decisions. You don't wait for your mood to match your ambition. You move until it does. You don't wait for the fear to fade. You step into it and find out it never had teeth. This is the method. No backup plan. No loops. No stalls. Just you. Stripping the excuses at the root and replacing them with actions that silence them forever. You keep deciding, then undeciding, committing, then questioning, starting, then stalling. And every time you restart the conversation, you drain the power from the path. You don't move forward because you're stuck in a loop of redecision. But here's the shift. The people who break free don't make the decision every day. They make it once, then build a life that reflects it. You don't wake up asking, "Do I still want this?" You wake up acting like it's already yours. Because every time you redecide, you create friction. You open space for doubt. You invite the critic back in. And that space? That hesitation? It's where your momentum dies. So here's what you do. You choose. Once. With everything you've got. Then you design your days. So that choice lives through you. Without needing constant validation. That means the identity comes first. You don't act like someone trying. You act like someone already is. You don't go to the gym to see if it helps. You go because it's what this version of you does. You don't write only when the ideas feel good. You write because the decision already includes the discipline. You don't check your mood to decide your moves. You check your vision. And let it dictate your next step. That's how you stop getting stuck. You stop reopening the door. To doubt. To retreat. To the plan B you said you burned. And it gets clearer when you say this to yourself. I've already decided. I'm not starting over. I'm not waiting for approval. I'm moving with the full weight of that choice. Because motion with decision is powerful. But motion with indecision is exhausting. So you simplify. One mission. One voice. One rhythm. You make the decision once. Then let your behavior reinforce it. Over and over. Until it becomes your baseline. And when doubt creeps in, when the critic raises its hand, you don't engage. You just remind yourself, I don't owe this thought another answer. I already chose. This moment is already spoken for. That's when you become dangerous. Because most people lose power. Not from lack of talent, but from constant self-interruption. You won't. Because now you understand. Decision is not a mood. It's a declaration. You don't wait for it to feel good. You live like it's already true. Then build the momentum. That makes it real. You keep chasing strategies. The perfect morning routine. The right productivity system. The flawless calendar layout. The ideal habit stack. But none of it sticks. Not because the systems are wrong, but because the identity running them is still undecided. You try to copy successful people's moves, but forget they're not just doing different things. They're thinking from a different place. They've already become what you're still debating. That's why their system works. And yours crumbles by day 3. So here's the shift. You build identity first. Then layer strategy on top. You stop saying, how do I stay consistent? And start saying, what kind of person would never miss twice? You stop asking, what's the best method? And start answering, who do I need to become to make any method work? Because the truth is, every strategy works. For the person who's already decided they're not going back. But no strategy works. For the version of you still negotiating your standards. So before the checklist, before the color-coded plan, you install the identity. You say, I'm the kind of person who moves before he feels ready. I'm the kind of person who finishes what she starts. I don't break promises to myself, even in private. And that identity becomes the lens. Every tool, every choice, every routine runs through that lens. Now you're not looking for something that feels easier. You're looking for whatever supports the version of you that refuses to slow down. And suddenly, you're not overwhelmed by the options. Because you already know what fits. You don't chase hacks. You don't bounce between methods. You pick one and master it. Because it aligns with who you've already decided to be. And when you fall off, when you miss a day, when the critic tries to sneak back in, you don't spiral. You reset. You say, that was a glitch. Not a pattern. My identity is still intact. My motion resumes now. That's how you become unstoppable. Not by perfecting every detail, but by anchoring yourself to something deeper than discipline. Because discipline fades. Motivation fades. But identity? It's personal. It's emotional. It's rooted. And the person you're becoming is not here to try things. You're here to install a new standard. One that makes momentum your default. And makes quitting feel unnatural. So the next time you're tempted to download one more app, to redesign one more planner, to study one more video, pause and ask yourself, have I decided who I am yet? Or am I still trying to trick my way forward? If the answer is clear, the path becomes simple. Because identity isn't just where you're going. It's how you move every step of the way. You've been dancing between two lives. The one you have, and the one you say you want. You haven't chosen either. Not fully. You haven't burned the bridge back. But you haven't broken through forward. And that space between? That's the middle ground. It feels like progress. But it's a trap. You're busy. You're planning. You're thinking. But you're not moving. You're negotiating with the old, while fantasizing about the new. And that split energy kills your momentum. So here's the shift. You destroy the middle ground by removing the version of you that needs it. That version that wants to play safe. Keep options open. Wait for signs. That version gets no voice from now on. You choose. Then you eliminate the other path. You don't dabble in the future while holding hands with the past. You cut off plan B. You stop checking if it's still there. You stop treating escape as an option. And that kind of decision, that's what creates unstoppable force. Because once you eliminate the middle, every move becomes faster, cleaner, louder. You stop delaying action to compare comfort. You stop building fallback plans in secret. You live like this is the only road. Because it is. That doesn't mean you know every step. It means you've eliminated every excuse that leads away from them. You're not halfway in anymore. You're built in. You breathe this. You wake up with this. You sleep beside this. You shape your words, your habits, your entire structure to match a life where compromise doesn't exist. And here's the reward. No more inner conflict. No more silent guilt. No more voice whispering. You could always go back. Because there's nothing left to go back to. You've burned it. Buried it. Closed it. And when you feel the ache of uncertainty, you smile. Because uncertainty means you're on the right side of the fire. That discomfort, that friction, it's not a sign to turn around. It's proof you finally left the middle. So now you act. Not cautiously, but completely. You speak like this is your only voice. You write like this is your last chance. You train like this is the only body you'll ever own. You move like no one is coming to rescue you. Because they're not. And that's what sets you free. Freedom doesn't come from options. It comes from elimination. You eliminate the version of you that negotiates. And replace it with the one who commands. And from here, everything speeds up. Because nothing's pulling you back. Only one road. Only one identity. Only one outcome. And you're already on the way there. You've been taught to aim for balance. To not care too much. To protect your energy. To pace yourself. But look around. Balance didn't get you here. It kept you comfortable. But stuck. You're not craving balance. You're craving a breakthrough. And breakthroughs don't come from moderation. They come from obsession. That word might scare you. Because you've been taught it's dangerous. That if you care too much, you'll burn out. If you focus too hard, you'll lose yourself. But here's the truth. The only way to escape stuckness is to care more than most people think is reasonable. Not recklessly, but relentlessly. Obsession isn't unhealthy. Wasted obsession is. Directed obsession is the fastest way out. When you go all in, the world moves differently. You start waking up with clarity. You stop needing reminders. You become the reminder. You don't need accountability. Because you've already internalized the cost of staying the same. You don't need to force habits. Because everything you do now points in one direction. It's not tiring. It's liberating. Because now you don't ask, "What should I do today?" You already know. Everything becomes filtered through one question. Does this fuel the mission? Or distract from it? And the more you operate this way, the fewer decisions you make. Because your identity already makes them for you. You stop wasting mental energy on maybe. You move with yes or no. On or off. Forward or nowhere. That's what makes progress fast. Not just doing more, but doing less of what doesn't move the needle. And when people say you're obsessed, you nod. Because obsession is clarity in action. You're not aimless. You're locked in. And that lock-in becomes your protection. It keeps you from drifting. It shields you from the noise. It eliminates the trap of multitasking ambition. Because you've chosen one thing fully and built your hours around it. You're no longer scattered. You're a weapon. A focused one. Pointed at the life you said you wanted. Executed in rhythms that no longer require hype. And when doubt tries to pull you sideways, you return to the fire. You say, "This is who I am now. This is what I do." Everything else is static. You don't tame your obsession. You train it. You refine it. You build a life it can survive in. Because now, you're not afraid of caring too much. You're afraid of living half-built. Of dying with gas in the tank. Of looking back and realizing you diluted your intensity to fit into a world that never cared about your safety anyway. So you stop apologizing for wanting it deeply, for building it daily, for chasing it completely. Obsession is no longer your fear. It's your path. And the quicker you claim it, the faster you leave stuck behind. You wait to feel ready, to feel confident, to feel clear. But those feelings don't come. Because feelings follow motion, not the other way around. And as long as you wait, you stall, you pause, you calculate, but you never act. So here's the shift. You move first. Then let the feelings catch up. You stop needing to feel brave. You act like someone who already is. You stop chasing clarity. You create it through direction. You stop hoping for motivation. You generate it through motion. This is the secret that makes people unstoppable. They don't need to feel aligned. They align themselves by doing the work. They don't need momentum to begin. They begin. And momentum comes. You say you're stuck. But stuck isn't a place. It's a decision. To wait. To delay. To think instead of move. So you do the opposite. You shrink the gap between thought and action. You feel resistance. And step forward. You hear doubt. And hit publish. You feel fear. And schedule the call. You don't argue with hesitation. You interrupt it. And that interruption becomes identity. You're no longer the person who reacts. You're the one who sets the pace. You don't spiral into what if. You slam the door with watch me. And once that becomes your rhythm, everything else changes. You no longer depend on good days. You create them. You no longer crave motivation. You become it. Because you've stopped outsourcing your movement to a chemical cocktail in your brain. You lead with behavior and rewire belief through evidence. Not just once, but daily. Each small act becomes a vote for the version of you who moves anyway. And soon, you stop asking how to stay motivated. Because you've already built the system where hesitation has no room. Your identity becomes proof That action is your default. And stuck was just a memory. People will wonder how you do it. How you stay consistent. How you always seem ready. But you'll know. You stopped waiting to feel. And started living like someone who already decided. And every day you move like that. You build a version of yourself that no longer needs force. Only rhythm. Not hype. Just precision. Not inspiration. Just motion. And in that motion, you become unstoppable. Because you've burned the need for certainty and replaced it with command. You don't ask. You act. You don't check the weather. You build the storm. And that's when the world begins to notice. Not because you said you would, but because you already did. You've been trained to obey your mood, to check in with how you feel, to base your day on energy, emotion, inspiration. And that's why you keep losing power. Because your mood is inconsistent. But your mission demands consistency. You keep asking, how do I stay motivated? When the real question is, what do I obey when motivation disappears? And the answer is simple. You obey your standards, not your feelings. Standards are not emotional. They are fixed, cold, uncompromising. They don't ask how you slept. They don't care what's on your mind. They don't need your permission. They say, this is what gets done, regardless of how you feel. Because this is who you are now. And when that becomes your rhythm, you don't collapse under fatigue. You operate through it. You don't need fire. You run on alignment. Because you've stopped asking your body for permission to become who you already decided to be. You're no longer trying to feel like the person. You're becoming the person. Through repetition. And that repetition becomes law. It removes debate and replaces it with direction. Your alarm doesn't get snoozed because your standard says, I'm up before thought can intervene. Your task doesn't get postponed because your standard says, this is already decided. And when your mood resists, when your energy fades, you move anyway. That's not toxic. That's freedom. Because you're no longer a slave to the emotional weather inside your head. You're the climate, not the cloud. You control the rhythm. Because you've chosen to build a world where feelings don't get to interrupt destiny. And no, that doesn't mean you become robotic. It means your emotions learn. They no longer drive the vehicle. They ride along. They don't get to steer. They don't get to decide. They learn their place. When you stop rewarding hesitation with rest, you no longer comfort the part of you that wants to delay. You command it. You no longer say, I don't feel like it today. You say, my standard already handled that decision. And as this becomes habit, you stop burning energy on self-persuasion. Because now, your job is simple. Wake up. Obey the rhythm. Execute the pattern. Own the result. No overthinking. No emotional math. Just identity. In motion. And the longer you do this, the more peaceful it becomes. Because internal war ends when obedience to standard begins. And eventually, you look in the mirror and realize you've become the person who used to feel impossible. Not because your feelings changed, but because your loyalty did. You switched allegiance from how you feel to who you said you would be. And that is how power becomes permanent. You keep saying, I don't have time. I get distracted. I wish I could focus better. But the truth is, you're not too busy. You're just overcommit to things that don't build your future. And every time you check one more feed, open one more app, enter one more conversation that doesn't matter, you're making a micro decision to trade your mission for noise. It's not neutral. It's not harmless. It's pulling you off the path. So here's the shift. You starve the distractions and feed the mission. You don't just hope to focus. You build an environment where nothing irrelevant survives. That means eliminating anything that pulls energy without returning growth. You mute it, delete it, unfollow it, ignore it. Not because you're rude, but because you're loyal. Loyal to the version of you that's building something rare. You don't need to explain. You don't need permission. You just decide that your mental real estate is too valuable to rent to mediocrity. And once you do, you gain clarity. You start hearing your own voice instead of the algorithm. You start seeing your own timeline instead of someone else's highlight reel. And that clarity becomes your edge. While others scatter attention, you compound it. While others react, you build. While others scroll, you ship. Because now, you feed the mission before you feed the mindless. You read what sharpens. You listen to what aligns. You speak only what strengthens. And slowly, the world begins to match your filter. Opportunities arrive. Not by chance, but because you made room for them. Ideas land. Not from magic, but because your focus is finally quiet enough to hear them. You stop being the person who's trying to stay consistent and start being the one who's building relentlessly, because you've stopped leaking bandwidth to anything that doesn't deserve you. This is what most people never do. They keep upgrading tools without upgrading attention. They keep chasing goals while feeding every force that breaks them. You won't, because now you see the game. It's not about doing more. It's about feeding less of the habits, inputs, and voices that drain you. So from this moment, you commit. You silence what doesn't serve. You block what doesn't align. You replace noise with structure and reaction with creation. Because every time you choose the mission over the moment, you rewrite your trajectory. This is how you scale. Not by trying harder, but by protecting what matters. With the fire of someone who refuses to be ordinary. You want the result. You want the breakthrough. You want the moment the world sees it, shares it, applauds it. But here's what you're avoiding. Breakthroughs don't begin in front of an audience. They begin in the dark, where no one is watching, where no one claps, no one validates, no one tells you you're on the right path. Just you, your work, and your decision to keep going, without external permission. That's where the real transformation happens. Because when you build in private, you remove the pressure of looking like progress. And that freedom allows you to make mistakes, to try things, to fail, to get it wrong 10 times before it clicks on the 11th. No shame, no performance, just process. And while others are waiting to be seen, you're becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be seen to keep building. And when the public moment comes, it's not surprising, because by then, you've already become what the world is just now discovering. They'll say, you blew up overnight. But you'll know, you were showing up long before they noticed. So here's the shift. You stop chasing the spotlight. You chase precision. You chase the day you can look at your work and say, that was honest. That was mine. That was earned. You stop curating a version of progress and start building the real thing. You get off stage and into the lab. You stop posting about the mission and start executing it so fully that people can't ignore it. When the time comes, you treat every quiet hour as sacred, every private rep as a vote for the version of you that will eventually walk into rooms already owned by your energy. And when doubt creeps in, when silence gets loud, you smile, because now you understand. Silence means you're working, not waiting. It means your breakthrough is still yours, still pure, still being built, not broadcast. And that purity is your advantage. Because while others chase early validation, you chase the version of yourself who doesn't need it. And when you do step out, when you speak, launch, lead, you'll do it with weight, not hype. Because you didn't build for applause. You built for permanence. And permanence is what separates leaders from performers. So don't rush to be seen. Rush to be solid. Quietly. Relentlessly. So that when the world looks, there's no doubt. You're already ready. You keep waiting for the perfect version. The polished one. The well-rehearsed delivery. The clean setup. The flawless launch. And while you wait, you lose time. You lose energy. You lose identity. Perfection is a mask, disguised as preparation. But the truth is, you don't need perfect. You need momentum. And momentum doesn't come from polishing. It comes from pushing. So here's your shift. You do it ugly. Or you don't do it at all. You publish the rough draft. You send the messy email. You post the awkward video. You make the ask with shaking hands. You ship it broken. And fix it in the doing. Because that's how power is built. Not in theory, but in exposure. You expose your flaws, so you can upgrade them. You expose your hesitation, so you can outgrow it. You expose your fear, so you can train through it. If you wait until you're ready, you'll wait forever. Because readiness is not a requirement. It's a reward, earned through reps. So stop asking if it's good enough. Ask, is it real? Is it honest? Does it move the needle? And if it does, it ships. Ugly, raw, imperfect, but real. Because what matters is not polish. It's proof. Proof that you're in the game. That you're alive. That you're building. Not just thinking. And once you make this your rhythm, you accelerate. While others rewrite the plan, you're rewriting your limits. While they fine-tune, you're fine-forging. While they delay, you deliver. And it's not because you're fearless. It's because you've made peace with being seen. Before you're perfect, you no longer tie your worth to outcome. You tie it to movement. And that movement makes you magnetic. People don't follow polish. They follow honesty, energy, evidence. And evidence is built in the doing, not in the drafts. So from this point on, you let go of the illusion. You trade your reputation for evolution. You become someone who shows up exactly as you are, because you know that version becomes unstoppable. Not later. Now. You've been hoping it gets easier, hoping motivation kicks in, hoping tomorrow feels different, hoping success finds you ready. But hope is not a strategy, and as long as you rely on it, you stay fragile. You move only when you feel like it. You act only when conditions align. You break whenever things get hard. So here's the shift. You replace hope with systems. Because systems don't care how you feel. They don't wait for the mood. They don't ask if you're inspired. They just run. Every day. No excuses. No emotion. No delay. That's how real progress happens. Not from bursts of effort, but from repeatable structure. And when you install that structure, you eliminate the guesswork. You don't wake up wondering what to do. You execute what's already been decided. You don't burn energy making choices. You follow a path you already trust. That path becomes your engine. While others think, you move. While they hesitate, you compound. While they rely on willpower, you rely on rhythm. And that rhythm becomes your advantage. Because systems don't get tired. They don't argue. They don't negotiate. They produce. They refine. They scale. So you build them. Not someday. Now. A system for energy. So your mornings fuel your mission. A system for execution. So your goals become tasks. And your tasks become movement. A system for feedback. So every failure becomes fuel, instead of a dead end. And once you have systems, you gain something rare: predictability. You stop guessing. You start measuring. You stop wishing. You start winning. Not because you're perfect, but because your system doesn't need you to be. It just needs you to show up. Even at 50%. Even when it's boring. Even when you feel behind. You show up. And the system does the rest. And over time, that system becomes identity. People won't understand how you always deliver. How you always move. How you always seem composed. But you'll know. You're not running on hope. You're running on design. And that design makes you resilient. It survives distraction. It survives failure. It survives you. Because even when you're not at your best, the system carries the mission. And that's how you go from stuck to unshakable. You stop waiting for the right time. You build the structure. That makes now the right time. Every time. You want to be great. To produce something that moves people. To lead with power. To finish what you start. To look back and know you didn't waste your shot. But you keep chasing perfection. That one breakthrough. That one flawless day. That one viral moment. So you stall. You delay. You overthink. Because deep down, You're afraid that consistent effort might not be enough. But here's what you must remember. Relentless repetition always beats occasional greatness. Greatness isn't an event. It's a rhythm. It's a shape you carve through consistent force. It's what happens when you choose reps over hype. It's not about doing it once. It's about doing it until it works. Until it sticks. Until you don't recognize the version of you that used to quit. So from this moment, you shift your loyalty. You stop asking, how can I make it perfect? You start asking, how can I make it automatic? You write even when the words are clumsy. You train even when the effort is quiet. You execute even when the results are invisible. Because every rep is a vote for the future you. And that future doesn't need you to be exceptional today. It needs you to be reliable. To show up unshaken, unimpressed, unafraid. You no longer measure yourself by the peaks. You measure yourself by the floor, by what you do, even when nothing feels inspiring. And as you do, the compounding begins. Small improvements, daily exposure, quiet sharpening, until your worst day becomes someone else's best. Until your routine feels like power. Until your reps don't require hype. And once you're here, you realize the myth of motivation is broken. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel powerful. You just need to do what you said you would do. Enough times that doubt can't survive the proof. Because when someone sees your results and asks, what's the secret? You'll smile. Because the truth is boring. You didn't wait for the muse. You didn't chase magic. You built a mountain. One rep at a time. You woke up and moved. You stumbled and still moved. You won and still moved. And that motion became mastery. So forget the idea of your best work and focus on your daily work. Forget the illusion of peak moments and build a reality where your average day still builds a legendary life. Because you didn't show up once. You showed up always. And in the world of stuck, that alone makes you unstoppable. You've been chasing results, metrics, milestones, external wins. But no matter how much you chase, it slips away. Because results are the echo, not the origin. And here's what you haven't been told. You don't get results and then become the person. You become the person and then get the results. Everything you want flows from identity, not effort alone. And right now, you're still identifying with the version of you that's trying, that's hoping, that's improving. But that version still doubts, still negotiates, still leaves the back door open. So you replace it. You don't try to succeed. You live like someone who already has. You train like someone who's known for it. You speak like someone who's certain. You move like someone who's finished doubting. You no longer perform the habits. You embody them. It's not about doing discipline. It's about being disciplined. Not about acting confident, but being the one who doesn't need to prove anything. Because when identity changes, behavior stops needing willpower. You don't force your schedule. You align your life with who you are. You don't resist distractions. They simply don't fit your story anymore. You don't hustle to prove. You execute because you no longer see another way. You've become it. Before the world says yes. Before the scoreboard reflects it. Before the applause arrives. And when people ask, how do you stay so focused? How do you keep going when nothing's working? You won't say motivation. You'll say, this is just who I am now. And from that place, results become inevitable. Not fast, but certain. Because identity doesn't disappear under pressure. It anchors you. When effort feels wasted. When momentum fades. When nobody is watching. You're still there. Doing the work. Not for the win. But because the work is what someone like you always does. This is how real transformation sticks. It's not a mindset. It's a memory of how you lived when no one clapped. How you trained when nothing paid off. How you moved when the old identity begged you to turn back. You said no. Not just once, but daily. In silence. In boredom. In setbacks. And now, you don't need to shout. You just walk into the room. And it's obvious. Something has shifted. Because you no longer need to prove you've changed. You are the proof. There's a moment in every journey where you cross a line and you don't go back. Not because you're trapped, but because you've burned the version of you that used to retreat. That line isn't on a map. It's in your mind. It's the shift from I hope this works to this is who I am now. You've arrived. You're no longer the person who needs hype, validation, or guarantees. You've become the one who moves anyway, who finishes what they start, who shows up when it's hard, who stays steady when it's loud, and silent when it's time to build. You've dropped the escape plans, the backup routes, the soft landings. You've gone all in, on your own becoming. This is the point of no return, and it feels different. There's no panic, only presence. There's no desperation, only precision. There's no fantasy, only full ownership of reality. And in that ownership, you stop wishing things were easier. You train until you're stronger. You stop hoping for the path. You build it with daily steps. You stop flirting with potential. You commit to becoming. No matter how long it takes. No matter how many rebuilds. No matter who doesn't get it. Because now, you do. You see clearly that the old life was never real safety. Only comfortable decay. You see that quitting wasn't rest. It was self-betrayal in disguise. You see that nothing changes until you declare that there is no alternative, no second option, no reverse gear. And in that clarity, you stop breaking promises to yourself. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop asking for the map. Because now, you are the one drawing it. And the world can feel the difference in how you speak, how you move, how you decide. You've stopped asking. You've started directing. You've stopped playing. You've started building. And this time, there's no reset. Because you don't need one. This isn't a temporary shift. It's your new foundation. And the deeper it sets, the less effort it takes to remain locked in. You've upgraded the core. So even when everything outside collapses, you don't. Because you've already become the kind of person who keeps going long after the hype fades, long after the motivation disappears, long after the old version would have quit. You're not stuck anymore. You're not half in. You're not figuring it out. You've made the switch from hesitation to heat, from maybe to mastery, from waiting to becoming. And now, the only question that remains is how far you'll take it. Not if, only how far.